This is nice. Just a pristine white sandy beach, palm trees, and some coconuts, and birds. This is a nice little vacation. This is after all of 2020. This is very, very welcome. And what is that? Why is there a evil looking steampunk submarine surfacing right in the middle of this very pretty bay that I was just about to fold out my chair. I got a stupidly strong fruity cocktail whatever here. I was gonna get some sun, relax, enjoy the breeze, but no. Apparently there is a massive steampunk submarine surfacing and some very interesting looking people coming out of it, and I'm going to have to go. How's it going, everyone? Mike the War Host here, and today we are taking a look at the Wrath of the Nautilus Posse for Wild West Exodus, and the best way to go from just the Posse box to a full-size tournament list. As I'm sure the more astute of you have noticed, this isn't a regular Posse box. Like the Soul Hunters, the Wrath of the Nautilus Posse fits in with both Wild West Exodus and Lost World Exodus as well. But since Lost World Exodus has yet to be released, we'll be focusing on this Posse's functionality in Wild West Exodus. Like the Soul Hunters Posse, the Wrath of the Nautilus is currently a small, face-heavy force centered around Rani Nimue and her crew. Looking at the Posse card, you can see that this will always be a low model count force. Not a single Posse slot contains an AND option, so there will always be a trade-off when deciding what to bring along. Once Lost World Exodus launches at least. For the moment, however, your choices are limited to the box contents itself and Broad Arrow Jack. The Posse bonus is rather nice though. If at least 4 units with the Nautilus keyword are in the list, then Rani Nimue gains the Daring Do special rule, granting her a +1 limit bonus after rolling a critical success on her activation. Daring Do only applies during that unit's activation and only gives a single +1 bonus regardless of the number of crit successes rolled, but it's still a nice little bonus. If you look at the unit cards currently available, you're going to notice something rather striking: the overall lack of fortune available. Including Broad Arrow Jack, this Posse tops out at only 6 fortune, and on top of that, only half of that fortune comes from the boss herself, making your resource management skills very important. It will also make anyone on the opposing side with Enervate a top target. The Posse box clocks in at 755 points, leaving a good amount left over for a second Outlaw Posse to make up the remainder. The number increases to 855 if you add in Broad Arrow Jack to the mix. In the box, you will get the following models: Rani Nimue, Sarjar Hardit Singh, Charlotte Anning, Nico May, Violent Smee, and Erasmus Darwin. Let's take a look at the Posse members and see what we're getting with the Wrath of the Nautilus. First up is Rani Nimue herself. The majority of this discussion will revolve around her non-legendary unit card, as that's what comes in the Posse box. Interestingly, she is currently the only face that has her own theme posse. You'll need to use the underboss rule to promote her and get that +1 fortune to boot, so make sure you're doing your math properly when adding up points totals. Rules-wise, Rani is one of the few support bosses that can do a good job holding her own in a fight. She comes with both Prodigious and Elite, making her focus actions more effective and affordable. Treasure Hunter helps you pull additional glory cards for victory points, as well as more potential action points thanks to Elite. Inspirational gives a unit a free reroll as long as they're within 6 inches of her, and Form Up on Me will give Rani and a nearby hands unit access to Trailfinder. Currently, this is only useful if you take Rani as an outlaw mercenary boss in an outlaw faction posse, but this could very well become more useful once Lost World Exodus finally launches. Rani also comes with Bounding Strike, allowing her to reposition herself somewhat after wounding an enemy model. While she will still be the subject to backstab attempts, her Xeno Shield will help lessen the damage potential if she does get hit. Rani comes with a pair of weapon options. Her rotary harpette is a decent little pistol on its own, with a piercing value of -2, ROA of 2, and lethal on a critical hit. Her officer saber makes her a bit tankier thanks to parry, and the decapitate on a critical success gives her an additional edge in combat. Next up we have Erasmus Darwin, a pure support character for nearby units. The first thing you should note is his lack of Quicken the Dead. While his shield aura will make him that much harder to wound, it's an important distinction to make. Erasmus comes with jury rig automata and repair to keep some units in the fight a little bit longer, as well as sawbones to offer some grit check rerolls. He also comes with galvanic discharge to seriously mess with some unlucky attack dogs or lawbots, as well as servo claws to help him stay alive if something gets too close. Even with that, however, it is imperative that Erasmus Darwin be kept out of harm's way as long as possible. He is not a frontline brawler by any stretch of the imagination. Moving along, we come to someone who is bound to become an outlaw favorite, Charlotte Anning. Her magic lantern, while only having a rather paltry piercing value of -1, does come with the blast, indirect, and ammo clip special rules, making her incredibly versatile. And to make things even more appealing, she also has controlled scatter, allowing her to choose the direction of anything that scatters during a combat action. While this won't affect any portals she creates with Portal Mastery, it will affect where her specialized crown care packages end up landing. And to round things off, Charlotte comes with Savant, allowing you to play deck manipulation games with your opponent. Here's hoping you can pull that Fortune Refresh card out of their hands before they can use it. Next up is Sardar Hardit Singh. Apologies for butchering that name. A melee powerhouse and Rani Nimue's personal bodyguard. Sardar is a walking tank that will take quite a bit of dedicated firepower to bring down. Indomitable gives him the potential to remove negative conditions with a mind check. Dying Breath gives him a free combat action right before he dies. And even in death means Rani can't be touched with any weapons until he is brought down. And with a grit of 7, that's going to be rather hard to do. Sardar comes with a rotary harpette and a rather nasty whip. It has both brutal and disrupt on a successful hit, as well as displace on a critical success, and a nasty piercing value of -3. Expect to dedicate a good amount of firepower to get him off the board. Going down the list, we have Nico May, the Posse's stealthy character. Nico comes with Rapid, allowing her to move up to a full 8 inches on a focused move action. Undercover means she can sit back in reserve and come onto the board right where she wants to. And Elusive lets her leave combat with almost no risk to herself. Smoke grenades offer a temporary way to cut off firing lanes, and her razor claws have the potential to cause some serious damage, with their piercing of -2 and ROA of 3. Nico is best used as a finisher rather than a frontline fighter. Use the rest of your posse to weaken a particularly tough unit before sending Nico in to finish the job. Rounding up the list of units from the Posse box is Violet Smee, who is currently the odd man, woman in this case, out. Violet is a good face to have to help keep hands units in line with both rally and shoulder to shoulder. The only problem is that, as of this video, there are no hands units available to take with the Wrath of the Nautilus Posse, unless you bring a second posse along. And since shoulder to shoulder only works with hands units that have the rule already, you're stuck with just bringing along the Cowboys Posse to make her work properly. While I really don't like telling people to not bother fielding a unit that comes in the Posse box for these videos, it's really hard to recommend bringing her along at the moment. While her Webley Mucklock is a decent pistol, especially against automaton constructs, she just isn't a good fit for Wild West Exodus for the time being. And to round things out, let's take a minute to talk about Broad Arrow Jack. He's currently available in the Dead or Alive Posse box, but he's the only Nautilus character outside of this particular box, and he's one of the few Nautilus characters that has his own fortune. So he's sort of a soft requirement for the time being. Fortunately, Broad Arrow Jack also brings a few extra tricks up his sleeve. Or would if he wore sleeves. Okay, moving on. Gambler gives you an opportunity to potentially get rid of any low action point cards while giving Broad Arrow Jack the potential to seriously go ham on people. He also provides an additional source of treasure hunter in case Rani goes down. For the ladies, we'll give him some additional survivability should he stay close to any of the female models in the game, and rapport gives you the potential for additional victory points at the end of the game. Headhunter and Favor the Bold allowed Broad Arrow Jack to keep a healthy amount of fortune on him, giving him a good deal of survivability and leaving the rest of Rani's fortune available for the rest of the posse. You do have to keep in mind the fact that Broad Arrow Jack does not come with Daring Do, so his limit won't easily change. Broad Arrow Jack comes with a pair of heavy fists, which have stun available on a critical success, but his 4T4 heavy blaster pistols are what you should be using. They come with revolver fan, close work, refined, and displace, as well as fatal on a critical hit. A piercing of -2 and ROA of 2 means that he can be the key to shoving an enemy unit off of a vital objective or out of cover should the need arise. So now we know what everyone can bring to the table. What should a tournament-sized list look like? So the first thing you should do is decide whether or not you want to use the entire Posse box contents. As I mentioned earlier, Violet Smee is currently a subpar unit choice for Wild West Exodus. If you want to make the most out of her abilities, you're stuck with running the Cowboys as a second posse, so the hands can get shoulder to shoulder. If you still want to bring her along but aren't as interested in using shoulder to shoulder, my recommendation would be to bring a generic outlaw faction posse with Bill Brocious as the boss, as well as 6 K9 attack dogs. A full unit of these guys can easily be transformed into a face-seeking missile that will delete a single tough opponent very quickly by simply drowning them in grit checks. For this example list, I've decided to keep Violet Smee simply because she can still hold her own even if not fully utilized due to model restrictions, which means we're bringing along a second posse. My second posse choice will be a generic outlaw faction posse with the following units: Bill Brocious as the boss, accompanied by Cemetery Criminal and Belle Wilson. As I mentioned in my Court of the Nzambu video, he is every outlaw player's best friend. He brings along a second source of portals, some extra fortune to help keep himself going, dispersed deployment to set up alpha strikes very easily, Gambler to offset low action point cards, and Shrouded to keep him alive longer. Belle Wilson is a great bargain for anyone looking for a cheap mercenary sniper, which is great for Rani Nimue's crew. Currently, they're seriously lacking in the long-range department, which is going to be a problem early on. Belle can be plopped down in a safe spot to pick off important models while the rest of the posse moves forward. This list is designed to be an alpha strike list, getting you into your opponent's face as quickly as possible. Use Cemetery Criminal to open a portal as close to your enemy's rear as possible, then use Charlotte to open a second pair of portals wherever you need. Once these are in place, send Broad Arrow Jack, Sardar Hardit Singh, Bill Brocious, and Rani Nimue through quickly to go after your opponent's tender flanks. When Nako May gets on the board, send her after an important and already weakened target, while Belle Wilson picks off stragglers. The Wrath of the Nautilus Posse is one that Wild West Exodus players have been clamoring for since the initial release of Rani Nimue a few years ago. And while it's not the most powerful posse in the game, it's certainly very flavorful and brings us that much closer to Lost World Exodus, which will hopefully be releasing in early 2022. Maybe. Stay tuned for more tactics videos, game discussions, battle reports, and more. Take care, everyone. Walking tank that will take quite. I really have to adjust the speed on that. Violet is a good face to have to keep. Is a good face to have to help. Start that over again. God, this hat does not breathe at all.